So, I wanted to make a dump of my ideas about United States. I've been thinking about this for a while, and there's a lot of going on right now, mm, which isn't universally good. Let's say some people have been really critic about the United States in general. This is not going to be a fierce or gratuitously free attack on the states. Have been almost positively influenced by the American culture. But not everyone is so has a positive attitude towards America right now, and in general, Europeans have a kind of love rate relationships with states. Why is it the case? For several reasons. First of all, Americans and United States culture in general, let's take it on the macro aspect first, are considered somewhat arrogant, too much self um, referencing all the time pushing this ideologic side of America, which is true. I mean, to some extent, to some degree, it's true. It's present in movies, in public speeches, thematics. Oftentimes, it's not like take for example the catchphrase "God bless America." That's something uniquely um, American, right? No other country tends to use that punctualization at the end of phrases. That being said, there has always been also on your side. American have been historically not so trusty when speaking about Europe. The two countries always have been a little bit suspicious of each other, right? It wasn't the case when, for the little I know about American history, it wasn't always the case. The founding fathers were like pretty much fans of France, for example, that for some reason, which I don't know, degraded itself with time. So the relationships weren't always easy, are not easy right now. Most of Europeans are anti-Trumpian. We don't like Trump at all. Most of my friends have anti-American feelings, which I don't mm, share as a point of view. I am 90% pro-American. In fact, now that I've stated the most common known critiques, I will be spend the rest of the time praising my United States American friends, the positive impact they had on me, and why I do all of this, trying to open up a dialogue. The things I despite is the idea that the dialogue are going to be always and always more toxic from now on, which I find as a kind of lose-lose situation, right? We usually say win-win. This is the exact opposite of that. Everybody loses when the dialogue is shrink down to a bare game of opinions, right? No, they are like this, and Europeans don't understand us. It doesn't fuel positive, productive reflection. So I'll try to state what are the positive things American had of my life. I am a designer and a writer, which is to say I am what is called a maker. So since I've been remember, I always was a creative kind of person. So there always was way before um, being American was a thing, right? Before YouTube, before Google, me and my friends were always fond of America. Before like this kind of techno utopia movement, the States were always an influential country, music-wise, film-wise, storytelling-wise. They always had this kind of grandeur way of attacking problems, of seeing things, which appreciated. From that point of view, I think that on the public discourse in the rest of the world, you are not recognized enough. We always speak we always speak about in the public discourse about what is wrong with the states, but never what are like the really cool inventions that came out of that country, like the internet, like social network, which is a big thing of its own, so I'll not treat that today. But I was speaking about the fact that I was always a creative, so I was always, in some sense, influenced by American and Japan, which are the two most creative poles in the world right now, the most creative countries in the world. So what happens? In the early thousands, the whole thing takes a technical pivot, so to speak, which was and is kind of alienating because single individuals struggle to make themselves heard in a world which is from one second to the other becomes so big, right? The world has become too big to a place to live in. But on the other hand, the power and the resources we have right now in our hands is something unprecedented. Specifically, what I really appreciate about the state of things and the state of the internet right now and the positive ideas that shape the internet are the facts that now you are able to make your own environment. You are able to design your own environment. And social psychologists and psychologists alike know that this is the thing, the most important thing concerning human behavior. Once you are able to modify your own design, your own environment, you are able to basically shape the direction of your life. And that is something I regard as really, really strong of a tool to have in your toolbox. The ability to um, inhabit some forums, some niches in the internet which are able to empower you with new ideas. We know this is basically the way it works. Creativity works this way. It's not just the power and the struggle of an individual to come up with new ideas. The people you surround with influence and catalyze in some respect the kind and the amount of ideas you are able to generate. From this point of view, the internet is actually like some unprecedented shift in human history. To say it aloud seems like self-obvious, right? Maybe this is more accepted in American millennials, Gen Z Americans, but it's not part of the explicit way we talk about it here in Italy or in Europe at all. We take this really for granted, which is not the case. Think about this anecdote. The founding fathers of the internet, Vincent Pert and uh, I don't remember the names, but some of those, some like the guy is really famous. He works as a tech evangelist at Google. He was like one of the founders of the EP technology. In the early days of the internet, came in Italy to TIM, which is Telecom Italia is is like Verizon in the United States, one of the biggest telephone companies. And after this new technology to research to be studied and also as an industrial pole. I'm sorry, I'm having some troubles articulating the speak. I'm not a native English speaker. What Telecom Italia said back to the founding fathers of the internet was internet is a technology with no future. If it was a responsibility of Italian government and institution, internet will not be a thing these days. So this is I tend to remind to my friends. It was not granted. It was not an automatic turn in history that internet was supposed to be a thing. Internet was born specifically out of a really, really experimenting culture, which is the Californian culture of the 60s, right? Which is countercultural, which take up what was a military technology and understood that it could be made available to the public, which is something intrinsically American, if you ask me. Like uh, being able to turn a thing upside on his own head and find a new identity for it. That takes a certain kind of really elastic and open mentality, which is not something we can say to be an Italian or European value. We have our own values and we have our own strengths, and we made the world go around by our own means. But those are different. Um, it's not generally known as a fact that this thing can be so profoundly different. And I think personally there is a point of enviness from our point of view towards this kind of um, pushing revolutionary American mentality of always being upfront on the state of the art, always trying to experiment and making up new startups. This is another fact that mm, I really appreciate about Americans. Another thing that is not so, so widespreadly known is that terms like startup or even prompting, which is nowadays a thing with ChatGPT and the likes, are terms, are there is a whole vocabulary that persisted in the American culture. Like the term startup is found in early Steve Jobs speeches, right? Those terms stick up because American entrepreneurs and founders really believed in their vision. We have become accustomed to those words just in the last few 5 or 6 years, but this stuff has been I guess I just found out it was like a private language of entrepreneurs that stick because of their willingness to not give up about their vision. And so most of the things we have right now in the world uh, are the sons, so to speak, of that kind of mentality, which is intrinsically positive, if you ask me. I mean, it takes boldness, it takes a lot of people to be smart and willing to resist to really, really hard turns of events. You know, probably also on a colloquial sort of knowledge that making a company survive even for as a short amount of time is really hard. You have to follow that path down the rabbit hole to see wherever it takes you, and that is really hard. That is stoic, um, which is a value I see myself into because stoic mentality was born here in Rome. So we have some, reminiscences of that. I was born and live in Rome, and that probably is one of the reasons why I appreciate American culture, the positive aspects of American culture so much, because I mirror myself in those. We have grown here with that kind of positive image, the image of people which refuse surrender. We are, in fact, one of, I think, the most profound points of a connection on the Italian American side is this kind of fondness for uh, the Republic years of the Roman history, like the good years, everything that comes before the empire. We tend to think of the Roman history as good, Republic, Cicero, Stoic philosophy, Marcus Aurelius, and bad, which is the empire, which, like, basically send the world crazy. Like the empire was like really, really evil. Julius Caesar is not like a positively connotated figure here, because also because it's strictly associated with fascism. On the point of that, I guess, I think that we could find a common uh, space, a common set of values that could rebuild the American European um, dialogue, and to make a new shared point of view of what could be good human values to base our future on. That being said, I made like this grand speech about everything and nothing, which is something really Italian to do. But let's try to bring this to a more pragmatic, practical topic. What can we do? What can we nerds do? What can we makers do to make this happen? There has been a lot of talk about writing renaissance and digital renaissance, which I found both positive of a view, ideologically speaking, and somewhat poor of practical application. But the idea is really good and it's also mm, kind of feasible. I mean, we have now the tools. What we lack is a kind of more defined view, defined organization. So we need both people like me who are like really into making stuff, creating, experimenting, not willing to follow the mass, willing to take kind of risk, also stupid, as also like in roads which are not granted to make you money. But also, we need more pragmatic people. We need leaders. We need people who tell me what are smart path to follow. Because being a creative in the era of creative marketing has a fatal flaw, so to speak, that we don't know where to put our energies. So we need different kind of figures. We need leaders. We need people with strong point of views. We need creatives, but we also need mediators, like people who are able to create what Battiato calls centro di gravità permanente. How do I explain that concept to you? Think of Switzerland, like neutral environments where we can share our ideas about the future, about what as a community we can build together. Because right now, YouTube, social networks have this kind of double-sided axis, right? On one hand, you can excel as an individual and expose yourself as as a creative individual, sharing your best ideas and your fun things. On the other hand, it's quite difficult to become united as following the same values, right? Because the game is a social status game, which is an individual game at its core. You don't tend to think, okay, I will now try to do something that makes my group shine. Groups are not a thing anymore because that has been substituted by startups, by societies, which are though basically competing against each other. So this is kind of complex, right? We have singular individuals in a collective space, which, when it turns actually making groups and collectives, becomes competitive toward each other. It's complex. I am not a sociologist. This is the way I try to explain things to myself. It's not linear, and so that is the reason why it to build up together a collective renaissance it's not going to be that easy because yes, during the Renaissance years you had the Leonardos and you had the Michelangelo and the Raffaellos and all the Ninja Turtles that you will. But those excellences, these individuals with a really powerful talent and a really new way of seeing things, were collectively pushed by a common vision of the people who had the money, right? The magnati, I don't know the term for that in English, but it basically means people with the money which founded these art cultures. That that role has been is been filled by venture capitals. But to be in contact with venture capitals, you have to sell something. You have to sell either a product or to have something to sell, which is not always the case, right? Digital products means that you are making a product of yourself, but the way we are founded is by publicity, by marketing, by brands. So it's an indirect kind of sponsorship. What if this is not the only way to do things? What if we turn things upside on the head again? What if venture capital start to found um, fund? That's the right word. artists and art collectives? What if being an influencer stops being a sort of solo entrepreneurship kind of thing, but starts to be a more collective enterprise? What if people come as mediating like groups of influencers and get funds from venture capitalists um, with someone as a kind of mediator figure that is able to take these people to have a dialogue with each other. This is like I am brainstorming. These are not ideas I had previously of making this video. I'm just like talking freewheeling, if you will. Why do I think a new kind of organization might be useful? Because right now we have this incredible shared power, but the world is in a kind of unstable transforming phase into something we are not really sure of because of AI, but AI is too much big of a discourse. And since the path is not clear, this has come with a wave of growing anxiety. And from that wave of growing anxiety, I think that the rise of the rights, we call it la destra, which means conservative parties basically, around the world is becoming much and much more of a thing. I don't think we necessarily have to care about that. I don't think we have necessarily to make it a thing about politics. I don't think necessarily that I have to care about it. I don't think that the fact that Trump is president has nothing to do with the fact that I am a maker and that I have American friends who are makers, who are not directly influenced by that. But you know, the public discourse can have an impact on the way we conceptualize things. And that I am afraid I saw to be a thing among nerds which are joining the alt-right in the American figures like, Jordan Peterson, like Mark Anderson. All these people have a voice right now, and it's not clear what is the vision they are pushing to. But I see makers becoming more conservative, becoming more mm, prey of a fear-based mentality. That being said, I kind of like these people. I don't share most of ideas with them because I am a grown up. I am 30. So my political ideas are strong and have nothing to do basically with techno-utopia. I was raised a leftist, ideologic California push pop style. But again, I don't really think that has nothing to do, or only partially. I don't want that to become a problem, and that I don't think, and that's one of the reasons why I made this video. You should listen to those people more than much. I mean, they are smart. They have nice ideas, and they can be compelling. But when it turns on the side of masculinity versus um, that kind of make it kind of message, that kind of be productive at the cost of your own private life, I think that is just not the way things work. I'm not saying you should not work your ass off. That seems like a positive message to share. I mean, working a lot is good, but do we have to make it really the thing around which we build our future? Like really, is it is that what you want? Is that what you really want? To only work in your life, not to be happy? Because that's the thing. Like billionaires make it mm, af- always are always clear about the fact that being really rich doesn't mean automatically that you will become happy. These people, like these alt-right people, the various Elon Musk, the various Sam Altman, make it public that they are not really happy. Their lives are really, really hard. how could it be otherwise? They don't do anything which hasn't to do with work. They talk about work on social media. They build their careers and their lives around the concept that your work is your life. We could shift that to a more positive mentality if you want me to be completely honest with you. Because for me, the point of life is to be happy, not to be a machine. I don't. Machine works. That's what machine do. They work all the time. It has a positive impact on society. I am pro capitalism, as I told you. I am not against many of the things that American propels, because I think that right now the state of things is that we have to work. We have to share a common view world to make this work. But that's not necessarily. There is not a logic that makes it necessary for work or productivity or decisiveness or for strength of character to be more than much important, right? What does it change? Is it necessary for you to come up with extraordinary new disruptive ideas, to be strong in character and to be always working um, 24 hours a day? No, it's not the way the human brain works. The human brain needs divergence in order to be creative. We need both things. We need to be strict and we need to try hard at really focusing. Focusing is important, but it's not the only thing that matters. When you hear these people speak a certain way about the way they look at things, they do it because that brings water to their own windmill. That is how they make money, by assuming people to work for them. What do you want to say them? Stop working so hard and um, smoke marijuana so you can have more brilliant ideas? No, they are not. It would be logical for them to say something of the like, but for us, for the people who has to come up with the new ideas always, a different kind of lifestyle is needed. If you focus always on working on elaborating and making your ideas come to a reality, what you are going to end up is things, is products, is material goods which you can sell. But what if they suck? What if they are not that disruptive? The way you turn that around is to shift to a more iterative kind of thinking. But to be iterative, it means that you have to have someone which pays for the risks you are taking, right? These people, the rich people, are supposed to buy a part of your risk, of the risk of making stuff which could not sell, which could suck. But if you only focus on the productive side, if your basic ideology, if your background is to work, work, work without having a more general point of view, that is not going to lead you to a digital renaissance. I think the logical basics are not there. You have to think with your own mind. You really have to become more of a free thinker. It's complex. I mean, that is the main point of fracture right now that I have toward my American friends. I think you are fear driven, and I think that fear impedes you to think creatively and critically. That being said, why is this such strange for me and for us, for my other friends, which are really always been pro states? The reason is that I learned how to think freely. I learned how to be an independent and unconditional thinker from American minds, from English philosopher, from the Anglo-Saxon point of view. So that is the thing that doesn't fit my frame right now. How come you are becoming so strict in mentality, so narrowed minded, when you are the ones who taught me to become a problem solver, to become a more positive person? Like, positivity is not a thing in Europe. Europe works on the concept of cynicism, because cynicism we never recovered from Nietzsche. people are negative in Europe, like positivity, that kind of positive strength, that kind of William James kind of mentality of fuck it all, I am the man with the strength to make it on my own. That kind of positive individualism is something I learned essentially from the United States. I'm not saying that I owe everything to American thinkers because that will not be true, but I owe a lot to them. The various, not only startup founders, American culture in general, from music to philosophers in the likes of Noam Chomsky, in the likes of Bertrand Russell, which was an Englishman but was a positive voice in the shape of American culture, not so to speak the American founding fathers. But if you don't like that for a woke kind of ideologic say, there are always a lot of black thinkers that influence me, like Malcolm X, like Martin Luther King. In the more modern political thinking wise, Rage Against the Machine, but also capitalistic wise, I am not making it an ideologic thing. I'm just saying that positive mentality, the ability to frame your thoughts in a from first principle, right? Is something inherently Anglo-Saxon. It's something inherently American. The ability to restate a thing or a problem from its most basic components. And right now, I think um this kind of powerful tool is in the hands of the people who are listened to, the people who have the power to share their message. Elon Musk, which is the person who popularized the concept of first principle thinking, which by the way is very old. It traces back to Greek philosophers, but that was the thing. Pragmatism, positive thinkers inherited that from Roman and Greek culture and then from Scottish Illuminism, and then it became the very thing on which the United States were built, right? Pragmatic philosophy. But what happens when pragmatism is in the hand of people who are after power? Because that's the point. The right always were uh, power seekers. Because once you have all the money, you are not incentivized no more to seek money for the sake of money. The reason why all these entrepreneurs are shifting toward politics, if it's kind of self-evident, right? They are after power because it's the only thing that they don't have. It's the only source of control that they don't have. So I am not saying you should not be a fan of those people. I am not saying in any way you should not look for monetary goods. I mean, you are able to do basically whatever you think is right with your own life, right? That's what thinking freely means. But I guess this is kind of taking some critical hits. I think that the dog is eating his own tail, so to speak. That kind of mentality, if left out of control, brings itself to its own opposites. Uh, Thinking freely, being an unconditional thinker, somewhat goes all the way and becomes totalitarian thinking. I urge you to do the road backwards, to have your own views, do not take for granted or to not um, have a too much narrow kind of view. There is a lot of positive ways in which things that also come from unexpected sources maybe can bring water to your windmill, maybe can influence your work or your products or your view in positive way, which not necessarily have nothing to do with politics. This is it looked like I was making a political kind of discourse, but it's not the case. It, it was the exact opposite. Anti-politics views can bring you um, monetary ideas. Think about it this way. So let's make a big wrap up. I told you it was going to be a dump, so I'm sorry I diverge in various directions, but the point I think is this. What you are able to experience on social media and on the internet, it's the mass, right? It's the big leveler, it's the normalized uh, thought, because that's the way the internet works around the concept of memes. You have to be to some degree alike other people in order to make it on the internet, because otherwise your message is not going to be understood. Those are called tropes also, if you want to focus on that thing. If you want to become popular on social media, that's the way it works. You have to do what other people do, which have been proven to be successful. But that it's not going to make you come up with original stuff. If you want to be really on the edge, if you really want to be creative, go outside the door, go in the streets. People like street people, like people in the shops, more time than often come up with better ideas than the ones I found on the internet, because these people in the real world solve real problems all the time. They are stressed up, so they articulate themselves in ways which are unpredictable, and that's where good ideas come from. Good ideas are not going to come from your favorite influencer. Those people are supposed to think in a normative way, because that's the way that's necessary for them to be up there. But for you, which want to be the disruptor, which want to be the new thing, you have to go look for these things in strange places. That is why I'm talking about the fact that you should beware about closing your mind to European guys. Why? Because we think differently, and from difference brings variance comes out, and variance is good for creativity, in, by definition, almost. So I'm not going to close my mental door to United States because all of a sudden you are depicted as the evil guys in the media. That doesn't mean anything from a productive point of view. Leave aside all the rest. Only think about what can make you um, a better person, a person that has more chances to bring their dream to reality. And that has to do with being open minded. You can't, being closed minded is really good when it comes to making things happen. But when you have to make new things have the potential to happen, you have to be open minded. You have to come here in Europe, in Italy, and to see how much it sucks, how much we have tried to make our own way. Uh, Also, if the kind of way we do things is very old minded, so we have to explode our heads in order to find technical levers to come up with original stuff in an environment that doesn't support original thinking. But from this kind of really strict fight, we kind of come up with good ideas, especially in Germany. Germany is like really good for software thinking. Maybe in Italy, we tend to be a more social based reality. So we kind of come up with different ideas, which are sometimes equally good. Italians can come up with really good stuff if you speak. Not, I mean, not tech wise. Maybe I made a German example because Northern Europe is really software oriented. But if you come here, you find out. You can find a new ways of doing things. If you go to Denmark or what do I know, Switzerland or Sweden, they have their own way at looking at things. They have their own way of making startups. Switzerland is one of the most technically advanced countries on the planet. Would you have, how do I find out? I went in a trip to Switzerland for vacation. I just found out. I didn't know. Why? Because the fucking Switzerland don't speak. They are introverted. They don't tell you anything. The only way to find out is to go outside. It's to go outside. It's to challenge your own point of view of what the world has to offer. Same thing. Who would have said that South Korea was going to be such a hit smasher, right? The most popular influencer in the world right now, Mr. Beast, has come up with his most successful format, stealing it basically from a Korean show. So what I urge you to do is don't impose artificial stuff on your cognition. I'm sorry it was a really, again, a really big talk about everything and nothing, but I wanted to make some points clear. Maybe I'll do more videos in English, more focused, more oriented at attacking specific problems. Uh, but again, if I have to wrap up this whole thing, is just think with your own head, just stay strong and positive. Don't become the next Luigi Mangione. Make a positive use of your own culture, of your own nerdness. We can make we can I think, honestly, I think we can make it. I think like common people with a kind of good understanding, cultural understanding, without even being excellent. Together, we can do it. We can make a new sort of renaissance. Is it like the Renaissance? Is it like Illuminism? Is it going to be a new thing with historical power? We have the tools. AI can be a tool to make creative and human powered stuff happen. The idea, the basic pattern is the same. They are pushing a fear-based kind of mentality around AI because they want the control over the market. But that kind of makes sense in their shoes, right? They want to make money from this. Who am I to judge? That is the way the market works. But that doesn't mean it has to work for you in the same way. You can take that and bring it to a completely different environment. You can take AI and make it the most creative shit you can ever imagine. I mean, sort of. That is a complex matter, and I'll try to tackle that down in a different video. But the point is, I was talking about to a friend of mine about this the other day. People is afraid that AI will take their jobs, right? Who's going to solve that problem? Who's going to make AIs empower people to make their own jobs technology based? AI is just becoming a substitute term for technology, but that has always happened historic wise, right? First, there was the Gutenberg press. People crazed up. Books are everywhere. Everybody now is able to make their own culture. Life is not going to be the same. Electricity was basically the same idea. People who hold the power to to make people work all of a sudden had to compete with your fridge because that wasn't the way fridge like food worked before wise. You had to go to someone who had the power to store the food, not to go rust. I imagine, I guess, I don't really know, but that is the same point. Technology changes the way you use it. So don't fall prey for that fear-based kind of mentality. It's going to be okay. It's going to be good. This can be done. It's not necessarily the case that you have to tell yourself that your life sucks because you have not become a billionaire. You can do basically whatever you want if you have a kind of elastic kind of mentality. If you ask me, really, I really believe this. I really believe that, yes, both working hard and being extroverted and unexpected and looking for stuff in a wonder kind of mentality can bring you joy, can bring you happiness, can bring real value. I'm using the word value in a economic point of view, which both means money or happiness or new relationships, whatever makes you happy. We have to articulate that kind of view. As you've seen, I don't have a unifying vision right now. I am working on it. I am always working on it. I am trying to be more precise. I am trying to find a way between all my interests, right? That is a common problem nowadays with creatives. We want to make too much things happen at the same time. Also, our base frames for thinking are probably too complex because everything happens all at once all the time and you are bombarded with different, it's it's kind of hard to isolate the things you really care about. So I'm interested in writing, making music, making software, making um, writing philosophy essays, which is too much. I will find though a unifying vision, a unifying way to to do this, and once I am able to do that, probably goods will come out. And who is going to impede that? Elon Musk? Do you think he's going to come to your house and say, "Ah, you're not making me more rich"? No, he doesn't really care. He cares about himself.